Hey Chelsea, thanks for joining us today. For everyone that doesn't know, it's actually the second time you're joining us. We're redoing this, but for anyone that's not familiar with you, could you just give an introduction and tell everyone what you specialize in, what you're going to talk about today?
Absolutely. Well, happy to be here again. My name is Chelsea Krost. I am a millennial marketing strategist and media influencer. I started working in radio when I was 16 years old in Delray Beach, West Palm Beach, Florida. I was in high school at the time. The word millennial didn't exist. The word influencer didn't exist. Social media is not what it was today. And there was no platform for the younger generation, the teenagers, to speak their voice, share their opinion, have their opinions heard, come together, network from across the country, across the world. Programming at the time really consisted of 16 and Pregnant and Hannah Montana. And that was not doing it for me. So I was very inspired by the lack of programming and the negative stereotypes that were just consistently being described about this generation. I'm sure you've all heard them: lazy, entitled, narcissistic. And I said, you know what? We have to put together a platform to empower this generation, not belittle this generation. And that's where my first radio show was born, Teen Talk Live. And it's been a snowball effect ever since then. And it's now a decade in this media and marketing landscape. And every day is a new day. It's a very exciting and crazy world, especially now that social media is here and ever evolving. So it's a ever evolving landscape at the same time.
That's great, and that's a great story, especially because, like you said, millennials kind of get a bad rap, and I'm sure the generations coming after them will get a bad rap. So it's good to have some good stories to share. So speaking of that, a lot of business owners share that opinion that they have a hard time finding millennials that are good for their workplace or good employees. If I'm a business owner that's not really good at relating to millennials right now, or maybe understanding that generation, how do I find people in that generation to work in my organization successfully?
You know, I think a lot of us who are looking to retain and also encourage that loyalty within the workplace amongst our millennial employees and also our Gen Zers. Gen Zers are, the generation under millennials. They're 17 and younger approximately right now, and there are interns in the big corporations and today. So we have Gen Zers, millennials, Gen Xers, and baby boomers now all under the same roof. That's 4 different generations. And of course, there's going to be different lingo and different mindset within each generation. And that's where we're going to see those, glitches and barriers. So what I really do believe is that the seamless communication and the way in which we can work together most effectively does trickle from the top, whether it's the CEO or the manager. That manager or CEO has to, step into the role of, look, we have multiple generations under this workplace. Social media and digital has to be thought about in business today. Let's utilize the Gen Zers and millennials to maybe teach the Gen Xers and baby boomers something that they might not know about in the digital landscape or social media, and vice versa. I think reverse mentorship is such an effective way to start that communication and understand people's strengths and understand people's weaknesses so that they can get paired together and teach and empower each other with learning something new. I think where where we start to see this divide within the workplace is when we're not encouraging collaboration, when we're not encouraging co-working, and we're not encouraging people to really hone and develop more of their skill set within the workplace. Millennials don't want to feel like they're plateauing. They want to feel like they're growing within the company. And if the manager or whoever is in charge can instill that, entrepreneurial spirit within the Gen Zer and millennial employees, and also encourage older generations to think more millennial or to think more digital and social, we're going to see a more cohesive work environment.
I think you brought up a great point. A lot of millennials would be really good at bridging those gaps. I think that is a skill set that's overlooked, and I don't think a lot of them are putting that out there. Do you think there's a niche, or do you think there's a under-marketed skill for those millennials that feel lost to say, hey, listen, we were around before the internet, we've been around, now that everyone only knows the internet, and we can help you bring all that together so you can communicate with the Zers and the Xers rather than just feeling kind of out of place. Could they maybe the ultimate connector?
I think millennials are in a really unique and exciting position right now entering the workplace because we do come along with our digital native perspective, right? We are of the first generation to remember dial-up internet all the way to everything being able to do in our handy-dandy smartphone. So we have really progressed and grown with all the unraveling and unrolling of technology and communication today. So, of course, we're going to be that much more native with it than maybe a baby boomer or Gen Xer in the workplace. So millennials need to step into their role and understand that they're coming in with a unique skill set into the workplace, understanding the voids within that workplace, within that industry, and be the solution, right? So managers and CEOs and business owners who are maybe older might not realize what they should be doing or could be doing or lacking within social and digital. But the millennial is going to pick up on that right away. So if we can be the solution and provide the answer, then we're going to be that much more valuable within the workplace. We're going to let our creativity and skill set really shine. And of course, hope to unroll more digital and social initiatives to further make our business that much more relevant in today's world, because every business today has to have an established social or digital presence. Otherwise, they're soon going to become irrelevant.
So say you're that older business owner in a smaller organization who barely even understands his business Facebook page or his website concept. How would you effectively communicate with all these different generations and their different styles to be able to integrate them in an organization that maybe only has 10 employees and maybe doesn't have the opportunities to always do some of these reverse mentorships or build those kind of teams?
If that's just not clearly an opportunity, maybe it's a smaller work environment, maybe the budget is very lean, there's so many different reasons in various different, industries or corporate red tape, whatever it might be. Then if the reality is that nobody within the team really has an idea of social media, has an understanding of content marketing, has an understanding of influencers within your industry that can only power your campaigns or your product rollouts or your initiatives or your events, then it is absolutely so important to invest in some sort of consultant to come in, understand your workplace, understand your year's rollout, and help you align a social strategy. Maybe teach and educate the marketing department of what they can do to continue the rollout and sustain the rollout, because of course we all know social media is not just post a picture and boom, everything, you have 1 million followers and 1 million likes and tons of engagement. There has to be consistency and a strategy implemented. And I always say give it about a 3-month to 6-month period to really understand what's working, what's not working, so that you can track, refine, repeat. And as soon as we can understand the method that is working within our business's social channels, then we can really, there's a pattern, and we can continue to sustain the pattern. But if nobody has an understanding, everybody's scratching their head, then somebody from the outside needs to come look inside, right? Sometimes when we're so in it, we can't see outside the trenches. I mean, I am a social strategist. I am a content creator. I'm a content coordinator, but it's so much easier for me to come up with a strategy for my clients than it is myself. I'm too in it. So I need to collaborate with people who are on my team or in my space, so to have that 360 approach to the content rollout and what should be rolled out. As the business owner, sometimes, our perspective might not necessarily be the consumer's perspective because we're too emotionally attached. So that's why it's really good to get an outside perspective or consultant if that team is just not, equipped to create it themselves.
So say you're a similar person looking to recruit, and you're back in the old days, you put an ad in the newspaper or go to a recruiter, but that's not going to work with millennials or the new generation. Where are you seeing effective places to recruit millennials that are ready to be part of a good
You
team?
know, I had a lot. I talk a lot with the HR department because I'm always looking to see what resources they're looking at for top talent today. And LinkedIn is always one of the first resources that does roll off the tongue for the HR department. LinkedIn is what I call LinkedIn our digital resume. Right? There's no such thing as there's no better tool today, in my opinion, to have your living resume, kind of working for you, right? It's there. If you keep it updated, if you publish content consistently, it's going to help attract eyeballs to your profile. Anything new, any testimonials, any awards or accolades should always be, of course, updated on your LinkedIn page. So LinkedIn is a great way to kind of put yourself out there, but also for people looking for talent, a great place to look. I know a lot of people that also use Glassdoor and some of those other job portals. I'm not HR, right? So I'm not necessarily on those other channels. I primarily use LinkedIn. When I'm looking for interns in particular, every quarter, I do have a revolving door of interns. I'm using Instagram. I'm using Facebook. I'm using Twitter. I'm using even Instagram stories and Facebook Live as a live streaming but interactive way to ask questions or answer questions or showcase what the role is to look for the right talent. So there's so much interactive element that we can do today to actually create dialogue with these people. So you're not necessarily scheduling 10 interviews and 8 out of those 10 interviews are just not right for it. So kind of use that real-time approach today, I think, for also sourcing talent. But LinkedIn at the end of the day, I think, is going to be your ultimate platform.
Obviously, there's a whole new world opening up with social media channels, paid online advertising. Some of the older styles seem to be dying. If we're trying to put together a strategy to effectively attract millennial buyers that are becoming a very large portion of the buyer segment out there, what do we need to consider when we're putting that strategy together?
Well, for those of us, watching and not necessarily sure if millennials are the target market, are their target consumer, or someone or markets that they need to be worried about, millennials are the largest population on the planet today. In America alone, we're just about 80 million strong. In America alone. Also, millennials do have the largest combined spending power, officially. So everybody's trying to get a piece of the millennial market share. And of course, millennials are soon to be, millennial moms and dads and just continue to be the next generation of everything, right? So it's definitely a market that you can't avoid today. Millennials are about 18 to 35, which is also a very broad age bracket. Clearly the person who's 19 isn't going to have the same pain points, values, and income as a 29-year-old. So understand the micro markets within the overall millennial market. I have 6 defined markets. I can share content with everybody as well to really go through what these 6 micro markets are. But the more you understand your target customer, the more you can create that avatar of who you're speaking to through your social channels, through your promotional efforts, through your ads, you're going to have that much of a higher conversion rate. If you're speaking the language of that ideal customer, then they're going to be that much more likely to gravitate towards your service, product, and messaging. So step number 1, understand your micro markets within the millennial generation. Don't just think that all millennials think, act, share, and engage the same. We are not a homogenous consumer group. Of course, understanding who your target markets are is only going to help you refine a lot of your content approach. Also, everybody thinks that they have to be everywhere all the time, right? We have fear of missing out. We have extreme cases of FOMO this generation. But the reality is that we don't have to be on every single social media channel. We don't. There's not enough time in the day for all of us to be creating, native content for each channel. So what you should do on each channel is secure your business handle so that nobody can take your real estate. so that nobody could take at Chelsea Krost on, Vine, even though I never really used Vine. But I secured that real estate. So that's what we should do on every channel. But what we should do next, after we understand our target markets, is understand where those target markets are on social media. The people that are on Facebook aren't necessarily looking for the same thing on Twitter, or the people on Twitter aren't necessarily looking for the same thing on Instagram. So really understanding the social demographics of each social channel is going to tell you exactly where your target audience is, and of course refine your content strategy, and also give you that much more time back in the day, because you're not creating content for 5 different channels. Stick to 3. Pick your top 3.
Perfect. Is there anything we absolutely need to avoid when marketing to millennials?
The things to absolutely avoid are thinking that we're, homogenous, thinking that all copy and all millennial consumers, think and really engage and purchase the same. If you're trying to blanket market to this generation, it's going to showcase through your promotional efforts. It's going to showcase through your social channels instead of actually speaking the language of your target markets. Create a story, create a conversation, how can you entertain and educate at the same time? I always say my favorite term is infotainment. You have to entertain and educate at the same time. I don't care if you're an insurance company or if you're a fitness company. You have to figure out the ways to engage and educate. And that's what social channels are really used for. Creating that conversation, creating that dialogue, educating the consumer, and then, of course, being the solution to that need with your product, service, or business. So really understand those pain points and values of your consumer, and serve them that. And that's going to be really well received.
So Generation Zers are just starting to come of that college working age where they're going to start spending some money too, and that's going to be a marker we have to consider. Do you see anything we need to consider different with them, or is there something we need to try and get ahead of with that generation? There's a lot to get ahead of with this generation that probably people didn't see. Any predictions there, or anything that we should start doing now to get ready?
Well, there actually isn't that much data and information on Gen Zers quite yet. I think it's because millennials are just so, here and present, and the generation that's the most different consumer than any consumer we've seen thus far, and we're still trying to wrap our head around the millennial consumer before we kind of enter into the Gen Z territory. But millennials and Gen Zers are clearly more alike than baby boomers and millennials, or Gen Xers and millennials, because of how we've grown up so digital, so natively digital and social. Gen Zers might not necessarily remember startup internet, so they're over Insta access, right? Like the whole hurry up and wait game, the whole waiting, 7 days to get their product, the whole waiting, 7 days to get customer service response. Gen Zers are that much more demanding of that instant gratification because they really don't know life without it. So Gen Zers are clearly on social channels more than other social channels. Millennials are still across the board on all social channels, primarily using, of course, Instagram and Snapchat and Twitter today. Everybody should have a Facebook business page established. Facebook is still king and is the ultimate beast. And of course, your Gen Zers are going to be primarily more on Instagram and Snapchat. So again, super important to understand the social demographics of each social channel, so you know where your target audience is. Gen Zers and millennials have about the attention span of 7 to 8 seconds, which is close to a goldfish. I know, kind of crazy. So it's short, sweet, and to the point. Short form content, visual content, video content, and influencer-driven content is going to best appeal to millennial and Gen Zers, hands down.
I think that's great. I think that's great advice. I actually went to a conference and they were talking about how the video game market is an untapped market. Because as you said, influencers are so big, and there's these big gamers that run these teams and whatever, and they're so much cheaper than athletes, but they influence so many more people, and they were talking about how no one's even thinking about this. But it's great. So this has been great. I think everyone that's been having a hard time understanding how to bridge some of these gaps, we got a lot out of this. I know we're almost out of time. So for people that want to follow up with you, keep following you, where would you like us to send?
Oh, very easy. All you have to do is remember my name, Chelsea Krost. Frost with a K. And you can find my website, all of my social channels at Chelsea Krost. We have our weekly Twitter chats every Tuesday. Hashtag Millennial Talk is our Twitter chats. It's an amazing way not only to network with hundreds of like-minded people in a real-time form, but we have so many great experts, so many great topics on a weekly basis, very entrepreneur-driven, very aligned to small business mindset, and that's a really great way to keep engaged on a weekly basis, especially if you're looking to grow your own social channels and brand authority and share your expertise. It's a really great way to network. Other than that, we do a lot of great things all the time on our social channels, video content. So I'd love to connect and engage, and it's all about the community today. The bigger the community, the bigger the influence. So something we should all be doing, constantly engaging in our community and constantly crowdsourcing from our community what they like, don't like, and want more of. And that's my motto.
Perfect. And you have a new project coming out soon too that you've been working on.
Yes,
Right?
I'm so excited. Talking about all this social media know-how, talking about millennial mindset, talking about millennials in the workplace. So what do we do with these people? How do they act? How do they, I've been on the speaker circuit for the past 5-6 years, and every time we got done with I got done with my presentation, there would be a line that formed. And that line was such a wonderful way to meet people, but it was also a really great way for me to hear the follow-up questions that everybody has. And everybody had a lot of the same follow-up questions, and especially about influencer marketing, social media, and content creation. And of course, millennial mindset, common thread throughout all of those. So I decided to take all of my information and really package it into a program to deliver to everybody out there, entrepreneurs, business owners, marketers, CMOs. This program will serve everybody in multiple different ways. If you're looking to really build your community, establish your authority, build your influence, roll out a content strategy, pump up those social channels, this is the program for you, and it rolls out in fall.
That's great. That's pretty exciting. Well, I know you have to run, so thank you very much for your time. It was great talking to you again.
Thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, we'll talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.